Word up, man. DeJon, really appreciate you taking the time, sir. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Justin. How are you?
I'm doing just fine, just fine. I know you guys have been in what seems like very long discussions. IATSE has been deep in negotiations with the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers. What specifically is the union asking for?
Well, in a nutshell, proper raises and proper rest. It's been a custom in our industry to work long hours. You know, a normal day for us is 12 hours. What used to take 12 days to shoot, now they've put into a 5 to 8 day schedule. So essentially the daily hours have gone up from 12 to 14, 15 hours, day after day, week after week. So we're fighting for a weekend rest period, which isn't really even in labor law. There's nothing that says, there's nothing that mandates an amount of time that the employer is required to give you. So it would be pretty historic if we got that in the contract. And right now we're going for a 56-hour weekend. And also a proper raise, a raise that comes close to the cost of living, and a lunch. So in our industry, in our contract, we have a thing called a meal penalty, where every 6 hours, at the 6-hour mark, you're supposed to break for lunch. And what's happening is if you don't break for lunch, you get what they call a meal penalty. And every 30 minutes, you get a higher meal penalty. It caps out at $13 an hour. Essentially, though, it's become a cost of doing business for these companies. So you end up working 13, 14 hours without a real lunch break. And all they do is throw a little money at it, which I call blood money. So we're really trying to get a substantial meal penalty put into the contract where it's a deterrent to not calling lunch. Some shows will not call lunch and do a 10-hour day, and that's somewhat reasonable, but to do 12, 13, and 14-hour days without a 30-minute break, a lunch break is something that was fought by unions 180 years ago. And the fact that we're talking about it in 2022 is astounding. And they have the money. It's not even about the money, it's just about proper management and scheduling. And if they took the time to schedule correctly and manage properly, they'd be able to give us our lunch, give us a break. And it's quality of life issues. That's what we're fighting for, essentially. And then the other big fight is, out of 13 locals, we have a local 871. They're kind of the lower end of the scale. So that's payroll clerks, assistant production coordinators, writers, assistants. They're making $16 an hour, $17 an hour. You can work it in and out and make 18 or $20 an hour. So essentially we have people in our unit in this business making less than what you could at a fast food restaurant. And we find that unacceptable with the profits they're making and the hours that those people especially do in the office. They do even more than us. If we're doing a 12 to 14 hour day, they're doing 16 to 18 hours because they're there first and they're there last.
I was astonished at some of these numbers. IATSE members voted almost unanimously in favor of a strike. It was 89.7% turnout, 98.7% voted in favor of striking should a deal not be reached. What was your reaction when you saw how many union members were in favor of this action?
Well, for IATSE, for the IATSE to do this, first off, it's historic just to even call for the vote, let alone if we actually do go on strike. It was beautiful. It was uplifting. It was motivating. Our members are willing to put it all on the line. So it's scary. The writers' strike lasted 3 months. Hollywood shut down. And a lot of our members have that recollection. A lot of our members don't, even to 2007. We have a lot of new people. 2007 was a long time ago. It doesn't seem like it. Time flies, right? We're talking 12, 13 years ago, over a decade. But it's different this time, and I'm gonna tell you why. So even in 2007, you didn't have the thirst for content that you have right now with the streaming product and the new media. You had the cable television and you had the DVD sales, but nothing like we see now with streaming. Even just 3 years ago, Netflix was still mailing out DVDs, 3 to 5 years ago. And in the last 3 years, you have all these new players now who have jumped into the game and not just put their toe in the water, but they're jumping in head first and said, no, let's go, king of the hill. You have your Amazon, your Disney Plus, then you have and Netflix, of course, and then you have your studios that have their versions of the new media. I said Disney Plus is Disney, Warner has Warner Horizon, NBC has Peacock, Paramount has Paramount Plus. So we see that's the future. And this is why it's different. It's not just the networks and the big studios. It's a thirst for product that seems to be insatiable in the last few years. And I think that works to our advantage. Although they buy libraries of old stuff, you have someone just bought Seinfeld and someone just bought Friends, both for like $500 million. But the thing is, reruns only last so long. People want new product. People want to see new stuff. So that works to our advantage. So the dynamic has changed since 2007. Honestly, though, if we look at the history of labor and the history of strikes in America, the employer has been willing and has lost millions or billions of dollars just to fight a labor movement, to fight a strike. So we see throughout history that the employer, it's almost like they take a philosophical stance where even though they'll lose money, it would be cheaper sometimes just to pay the demands, to give in to the demands that the union is asking for. But they'll lose billions of dollars just to kind of prove a point. So to have that turnout, to have that overwhelming turnout, that overwhelming yes vote was very motivating as a business agent, as a leader, to see that our members are willing to put it on the line. Because it's not easy for people in my position and in the leadership of the International to just make these decisions all willy-nilly. I like to say, it's people's lives are at stake. We have mortgages, we have car payments, we have school, it's kids in college. This isn't taken lightly. I know it's easy to say, strike, let's do it, let's fight for it, but these things come at a cost. And one thing we've learned in the history of the United States, the history of the worker, that nothing is won, nothing is gotten easy, from a lunch break to getting kids out of the factories to having an 8-hour day, to having a weekend. People had to literally get beat and die by the hands of police or National Guardsmen or private security firms. So to have that turnout, it was very uplifting and motivating, and to know that they had our back to go in and try to get the best deal possible. It was awesome.
The scale of this is what stands out to me as a broader story. I think you alluded to it. This is a national union. People can't just pick up and run to another state. If this happens, this will be the largest labor stoppage or strike since General Motors, 70,000 people, about 15, 14 years ago. What's at stake for fans of film and television should this happen? And why should they be engaged or pay attention to what you guys are considering?
American culture, we are, as much as we're attached to our phones, we're attached to TV. Now TV's on our phones, and we're constantly wanting to watch something. So what's at stake is not having your new shows, your that new product. With the writer strike in the 80s, so you used to have fall season. The season would start in September that year, and I think it was 87 or 88. The season didn't start till December or January. It delayed that much, and people were mad. I remember my grandmother mad because her soap operas, there weren't any new soap operas. They were showing reruns still. So that's what's at stake. Essentially, is the entertainment that's available, the range and the choices of entertainment that's available on the platforms. That's what's at stake for the public, and even what's going to the movies. Just getting out of COVID, people were happy to go back to the movie theater. You see a lot of movie theaters, the ones that have stayed open, have survived, have revamped, and they've got the big lounge chairs in it. It's a different, atmosphere. People enjoy it. And that's what's at stake, not having anything to show in those theaters. And, eventually we might need the public to help us on that, and maybe, cancel subscriptions. That would help us, a boycott, some type of boycott action, because, that's what's at stake, just a lack of entertainment for people to choose from and to binge watch and to go to the movies and see.
How far away are discussions currently? Are you guys, from your point of view, pretty close to an agreement on what's so important to the union?
We're under a media blackout at this point. With that said, I can say the employer has made some movement towards our position since the strike vote. We haven't, we haven't come to an agreement, obviously, because that'd be in the news, and we haven't called a strike. So IATSE is committed to making, to bargain to get a deal. And that is our goal. Our goal is not to strike and have a work stoppage. Our goal is to have a deal, a fair contract, a fair bargain for our members that includes a proper raise and a proper rest time and proper lunch period and a proper living wage for the people at the lower end of the pay scale.
I spent some time looking around IA stories on Instagram, and I couldn't believe some of these testimonials that I was reading. People getting UTIs because they can't use the bathroom. It's pretty extreme.
It is, but some of those stories I read, like, no, I'm gonna go pee. It's like, I don't care. But that's kind of who we are, though, as artisans. We're artists essentially, even though I say we're factory workers. But that's the kind of work ethic that we have and we show. These jobs are highly sought after. Again, they can lead to six-figure incomes, and so people are always trying to go the extra mile. And then there's always been a sense of kind of a military type of discipline amongst all the departments where, you don't let them see you sit down or laying down, close your eyes, or you better hold your pee in because they're going to need you. Like, I don't get that mentality, but I've seen it, and it's a shame that it's been around. But part of it is the competition for the jobs. It's, and it's the mentality. We give our best, we give our all to this product, to this process. I always say, I like to say, I love the cinematic process. I've been a grip for 26 years. And honestly, I sound like a geek about it, but the cinematic process, how we make films and television is awe-inspiring. When you bring together anywhere between 50 and 250 people and you make this television show or this movie and to see it come together, it's a beautiful thing, actually. And just the process that it takes, from the how they call rolling, how they call lunch. It's a beautiful process when it's done right. And we give our all to it. And we work hard. I like to say we're like Marines in the trenches. It's like you're going to do it. It's raining on us. We work in the elements. But that's the beauty of it, too, of this business. That's what makes it exciting and what makes it different than the office job. I'm in the office now, and I joke, shit, I became a grip to not be in the office. Now I'm in the office. But, that's the beauty of what we do. It's something different all the time. And, I don't want to trash it. I just want to be paid fairly, and I want my rest, and I don't want to be taken advantage of and abused. Essentially, I want them to stop hurting us. That's one of our messages our president has said, we're asking you to stop hurting us, and you're telling us it costs too much to stop hurting us, and that's not acceptable.
I just have two more questions for you, DeJon, but I thought that was beautifully said right there. And I think that is the center of what's happening in the spirit of the age, or the zeitgeist right now. We're seeing it across multiple industries, and you guys are fighting the fight right now in Hollywood. You mentioned the president last week, and that's Matthew Loeb, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And he was quoted in Deadline last week as well, last Friday, after the announcement of that the worker or the union was willing to strike. And he said if a deal was reached, it would happen within, or a decision to strike was, whether there's a deal or the decision to strike, it would happen in days, not weeks. That's what he was quoted as saying. Here we are, 5 days, 6 days since then. Do you still feel like that is the right timeline to look at this, or?
It's hours, not days. That's where we're at now, brother. And it's a little stressful. It's a little nerve-wracking. I just hope the employer does the right thing. But, and at this point, members, they put it out on the line. They've given us they've given Matt the bullet, the big gun, and we poked the bear. Our members are ready at this point. And a lot of them are looking for, what are we doing? What are we doing? If we're going to do it, let's do it. If not, let's show us a contract.
Wow. And my final question, you mentioned your 26 years as a grip in the industry. Through all of that, through the multiple decades, the evolution in technology and storytelling and the cast of characters that get to participate on some of the biggest platforms and stages, what so surprises you about the film industry, telling stories through media, Hollywood?
What still surprises me?
Yeah.
The attitude of the worker, the attitude of the crew person. What still surprises me, we're like a family. We spend so many hours together. And even though it can be abusive, the positivity that I feel on set amongst our crew members, that's surprising sometimes because of the hours we're doing and the lack of rest. So in a nutshell, it's my fellow crew member that continues to surprise me. And now as a business agent, and as I'm out there, visiting sets, and to see the smiles on the faces, to see their representative, that surprises me too. Like they want to feel represented by their union, and I want to make sure they know I have their back. Here for GRIPS, we have 33,000 members that are GRIPS medics, craft service, divers, marine boat handlers, and warehousemen people. So I always want them to feel like I have their back, and I'm going to fight the employer to enforce the contract anytime I get. But that surprised me, just to see the positivity on set. That's my last set, I was key grip on a network show, and just the amount of fun that we had making that TV show. It's surprising because it's a job, right? And it's like, it's one of the best jobs to have, even as I say, abusive, and it's freaking fun, man. It's a sense of pride to say that I'm a motion picture studio grip. When I tell that to people, it feels good. I wear it on my sleeve, quite honestly.
Yeah, it's beautifully said. DeJon, man, we'd love to have you back to talk about this, sometime in the future, see where this negotiations go. But we thank you so much for speaking to BTSN.
No problem, Justin. Take care. It's a pleasure.
You too. Have a good day.
You too.